we can get started. Welcome back to Applied AI in college classrooms. That is Zoom. This is Canvas. We are in Module 5, the second session, and we are continuing to look at creating some materials for our classes. And today our goal, we want to develop school skills in using AI to create diverse multimodal learning resources that enhance student engagement and accommodate different learning preferences. We want to master some techniques for generating varied instructional materials while ensuring accessibility, quality, and alignment with learning objectives. So it's kind of the main session goal. I'm going to put these outcomes into the chat um, because it's basically an extended version of what I just said. Also put this link in the chat to this page if you'd like to follow along on your own computers.
I just tried to
And
I
yeah, go
just
ahead.
tried to open 5.2. It's 5.2, right?
5.2.
Session 5.2, creating engaging learning materials. Yeah, it's all grayed out on my end.
Oh, I wonder if it's still that issue um,
Me
of
being a slacker.
needing to complete the 5.1. So
Holy
I thought I
cow.
fixed that, but
I thought you did
maybe
too.
yeah.
It was fixed.
Yeah, mine is grayed out too, and I haven't graded my last one, so we'll let me go
Okay.
forward.
That's fine. I'll try to fix that afterwards, but
Okay.
I don't know why it's still doing that. So
Yep, I'm locked. Like it's showing me it's grayed out, and then the previous lesson when I click on it, there's a big padlock.
oh.
Like
I
something
wonder
I can't
so
even
what happens if you go from the beginning of the module? Does that
um
does that
I
do anything for you?
can't let me see. Like
Like try
we did session 2 also, right? I'm just wondering because I got a bunch of grayed out stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I can't even they're like
Like if
somebody's
you
like,
go to 5.1, are you able to get to 5.1?
that's the one that has a lock on it.
5.1, the introduction or the
Um hold on, let me back up and see where I'm at. 5.1, the AI powered lesson plan, lesson planning introduction one. Yeah, I got a lock. Even at the beginning, it shows a lock. Like I don't know what's going on.
Okay, try it now.
Okay.
I refreshed it that said you have to move it in sequential. I thought I did that already, but yes, it didn't save or
Huh. Okay,
catch.
I'm gonna refresh it. Give me a second. There you go.
Okay.
Boom. Thank you.
Okay.
Woohoo. I
Sorry about
feel
that.
I feel
Like I said, I thought I
included.
did it. That's
I'm
what we
sorry.
want, right?
Yeah.
A sense of belonging. You're in. Come
You're an
on.
awesome instructor, so thank you. I appreciate it. I really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
All right, so today what we're going to need is access to your favorite LLM chatbot. I'm actually going to be going into Notebook LM today, so if you have access to that, or if you're on a computer where you can log into Google, that's a one of the Google tools for AI. If you have your lesson plan from last time, the AI enhanced lesson plan, we talked about. Was it the Gagne's 9 events of instruction? And then access to any additional tools. So, like I said, we're going to use Notebook LM. Any sort of course materials that you have that need enhancement. I'm going to show you today what you can do when you take um, like a chapter from a textbook. I'm going to use an OER textbook and put that into Notebook LM and talk about my process for creating um, supplementary materials for an instructor that I'm working with for public speaking. And then you have your weekly reflection journal just to take any notes or add anything extra into that. Okay, so I'm headed over to the listen page now. I've got this slide deck here. And then if you'll notice on this page, I also have some alternative formats. And so in lieu of the what's happening in AI this week, um, I put these ones here just because this is what I've been up to this week, trying to figure out how to effectively put together this material and seeing if it's going to work any better than if it were to just be presented how it normally is. So with that in mind, I'm not going to be doing the talking here for this listen section. And actually, I'm going to let's use our imaginations and just change this listen to learn. So, learn in any way you want. I'm going to give you all the choice, and I want to know which method you choose, why you chose it, and if you felt like it was effective. So, I'll give you all the different methods, and then you can choose. I'll give you the 10 minutes to get through this material. We'll see, number one, if 10 minutes is enough. And then, actually, no, I'll give you 15 because if you choose podcast, it's 16 minutes. So I'll show you what we got, and then you can pick whatever method you would like to digest this content. And then we'll talk about kind of the pedagogy and the metacognitive learning that of the method that you prefer that you felt was most effective. Okay, so feel free if you're like going through one and you're like you listen to podcasts and you're like it's not that interesting. Um, you know, stop the podcast, head over to the video. The options here for you to consume this content is there is a big slide, like I said here, slide deck that you can click through that's got information. There is a video here.
Hi there. If you're an educator,
So you can just click that video, full screen that. The infographic, if you click on it, that will enlarge so that you can see that. And then the podcast is here. And there's something wrong with the sound on that one, but just imagine that you're listening to it like through a radio on a station that you're not getting a very good signal. Also, feel free to change the speed there if you're like me, I like to listen to my podcast at 2x. So those are those options. There's the classic, information here. If you want to just kind of read through that. And then there are some articles here if you want to continue what you're learning about. Okay, so I'm gonna stop talking. We're gonna try something new here, and then I want y'all to kind of go through this material any way you see fit. I'll give you 16 minutes, so we'll come back at 3:30, and then we'll talk about it, and y'all can decide which one's the best. Because I haven't completed any discussions. No, it's okay. I think I changed it now, so you should be able to access it. I'm gonna put that in the chat just in case. Um, any questions about what we're doing right now? I'll assume silence means that everybody understands. So then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hop off mute or I'm gonna hop on mute and turn off my video. I'll be here. If you have any questions for me, you know, text me, send me a message or hop off mute and ask because maybe somebody else will have the same question. And with that, I will come back and at 3:30 we can talk about which method you all used and um, some of the takeaways that you got from that experience. Are y'all not able to access the infographic?
Yeah, I did that on the video too at first, but the video, if it's played, as long as I don't click on it to open a new window, it'll play.
The video will play in here as the
Yeah,
embed,
yeah, embedded.
but then if you click on it, it will
But
not.
yeah, exactly. And the infographic the same way. I don't know about the podcast. A podcast will play.
Wonder if it's because files is hidden. Okay.
It's linking it to, well, I mean, I guess it's linking it to a page, but the default page it sends me to is the main home screen.
Okay. Let me see if I can figure something out.
Yeah, no worries.
We'll share out in 2 minutes. I think that was enough time. If you were listening to the podcast, maybe you're just finishing it up now. Um, what did y'all think? What method did you use to consume this content? Did you think it was effective? Um, and what was your biggest takeaway? So feel free to drop it in the chat. Kelly says video. What do you think about the video?
I believe it was more interactive, that you got visual, you can hear it. They're giving you ideas on how to create it. Um, I make videos for my class. I record my lectures, and I've had my students pull the audio out of it, and then they listen to it in their car on, when they're driving or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, for those students, that's great. That's they're auditory learners. So
Mm-hmm.
that works pretty good. For me, just for me getting to see it and hear it, I think both helps,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, and it really kind of depends, right? If it's a if your students feel like they can get the information without looking at it, um, good on them. But maybe
Right.
they're missing something by not watching it, and then so at least they'll know, like, oh, okay, he's talking about something where I need to see that, and then hopefully they'll go back and will actually watch it. But
Yeah, I think podcasts, like in our industry, in the like IT, podcasts are great for like statistics and things like that. But they're not as good at you know, having a student visualize a network diagram,
yeah,
you know.
exactly. So maybe it depends on the content. Um, Kat, which one did you choose? I know you were trying to do the infographic. I added the infographic enlarged down here so that
I actually agreed with Richard because I agree, like basically making Canvas more visually appealing rather than the default um, view. And so infographics for me, I would typically lean towards because it's a picture telling a story a lot of times. The AHA, I guess, the podcast was like, okay, I'm not a fan of podcasts too much, but at the same time, if there was a podcast, the transcription's not on there, right? So I can't
Mm,
like read along if I'm trying to, maybe have it on mute or low volume or something.
Yeah.
The video did though, and so that was nice. Had the transcription, you know,
Oh yeah.
on every part of it. Um, but yeah, just at a basic level, I wish we had tools that we can have access to kind of put pieces and throw them together rather than code them with
Mm.
Canvas. That would be
Oh
nice.
yeah. Well, these ones, I don't know if this is exactly what you're talking about, but these were, I just uploaded these as, when you go into the edit page and you can add in, um, upload and record media.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I just uploaded the videos that way.
And then the
And
titles, but like how the flow of everything is going right there, where you have, a banner for each little subsection and then the text written out and everything.
yeah,
There's, I know there's tools out there that might be able to make it easier. Just kind of throwing it together rather than focusing, because I will like totally, if it was all up to me, I would spend too much time, way too much time in trying to make everything perfect and pretty.
yeah.
Um, and so having a tool that you can like throw things together, change colors with, add, this, that, and the other to kind of make it a little prettier would be nice.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if they're gonna ever release anything like that because if you're familiar with Google Sites, it's much nicer. It's
Hmm.
easy to just kind of pop a box in there, pop a bar. Um, it's- I don't know, it just seems like it looks better and it's easier to do.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and then we've got in the chat, started with the slides, but decided I didn't want to read, so went to the video, then came back to the slides. Couldn't open the infographic. Yep, sorry about that. I typically prefer having both visuals and audio. My brain thinks and remembers in images, so I can't do that. Can't do just a podcast because I don't retain the information from hearing. Wow. Okay. Um, I get distracted easily, so podcast. Yeah, usually I'm like driving and listening to a podcast. That's my go-to when I'm driving to kind of consume some information while I'm en route somewhere. Okay, so that's great. Thank you all for sharing for the people who did. I hope that you were able to get kind of the main points of this one. I liked this slide here, the last one, which were the key takeaways. So I'll just say these ones here, um, just to kind of round everything up from this section. But when you are creating materials, variety is nice. It's not necessary, but as we've been discussing, it gives people a different way. Imagine if all of you were taking a class and the instructor said, okay, all of this is going to be audio. We're not going to do any visual or text or anything like that. It's just going to be audio. Maybe y'all would hate that. So, multiple content formats accommodate diverse learning preferences and improve comprehension, um, hypothetically. Accessibility, universal design principles support all students, strengthening the learning community. Quality AI is a drafter, not an author. Human oversight is non-negotiable for pedagogical effectiveness. I don't know if y'all noticed. I didn't change it just because I wanted to leave it exactly as it came. But on one of these slides, it goes, the golden rule. AI is a drafter, not an author. AI generated materials require human curation for accuracy and Kelly, do you know what the and is? I see your hand. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I ran into an issue. So last quarter I was in your class and we were learning about AI and
Uh-huh.
I started using it to document processes and procedures, step by step things, right?
Hmm.
So I had a document written on how to install Fedora Linux. And it was like I went through it, verified it. My students did it last quarter. Everything was great. This quarter, all of a sudden this week, I start getting emails. This doesn't work. I don't see this. And I'm going, what the heck? They updated it. And the document,
Mm.
what I put together for them did not match
Mm.
part of what changed. So in IT, I'm sure in a lot of industries, and things change so rapidly, you have to check it all the time. You got to
Yeah.
constantly be verifying and validating it. So I was able to, pivot, make an adjustment, get it to them. They were good. But that woke me up. Like, I need to start looking at this stuff a little closer. I just
Yeah.
built it last quarter. I mean, we just used it. So it should have worked.
Yeah. And so that's another thing where it's like, if you're in an industry where things are changing, you don't want to spend too much time on content that is just going to have to change. Like, I mean, as we're going through this course, like next thing that we're about to do, when I originally created this course, there wasn't Notebook LM. And so, I mean, there was, but it didn't have kind of the same functionality that it does now. It was just like, I think they had podcast and like there was a summarizer, mind map, quizzes, and flashcards, I think. But then they added the video, then they added the slide deck. And so now I'm gonna have to go in and I'm gonna kind of skirt around it. Like I'm gonna leave this explore here on the next page if
Mhm.
anybody like wants to go in and kind of go through it that way and like create the materials through ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna show you the method right now that I've been using to create these that has been much faster and I think much more effective. So that's the tricky part about being in the tech industry is, things change and, we have to think about how much time we want to spend on something, versus how long that is going to last, right? Okay, so that's a good segue to get started with what we're going to do next. So we have the Explorer page here if you want to kind of explore on your own. Usually I'm like doing this and kind of following and copying, pasting, and all that kind of stuff. But I thought it would be more beneficial to go through my Notebook LM process, just so that y'all can see what I've been doing in case you're not familiar with it. If you are using Notebook LM right now, is there anybody that's using it to create content for your classes?
I've used it
Yeah,
to
how
create
did you use
content.
it?
I do a lot of things. The most recent thing that I did, I had to do a redesign of Canvas 101 because a bunch of videos got retired and all the guides links changed. And so I gave the course a facelift while I was in there. So it's got a new color scheme and page design. I used Claude mostly to help me with some of the page coding, so I didn't have to go in and manually
Mm,
do the code replacement, so I could easily switch, like, here's the template, put this into the template kind of thing. And
yeah.
then on one of the modules at the end, I had a table that had some stuff in it, and then I decided I wanted to turn it into a game or something that was a little more interactive than just seeing the content on a page. And I wanted to kind of fine tune it a little bit. So I had Claude help me come up with a way to do that in Canvas. And what we ended up with, just very simple design. And I don't know that I'd actually call it a game, but it's something interactive.
Mhm.
We ended up with accordions that had a statement on the title of the accordion, and then the person looking at it had to read the statement and then make a decision. Would they import? Would they copy? Would they start fresh? And then when they clicked on it, they got a little drop down that said, given, what this is, whatever the statement was, you would do this, and then here are some other things to consider. So there were like 10 of them.
Mm.
So that's the learning activity, because there wasn't a guides page for kind of learning how to make that decision of when would you want to copy your course, when would you want to import or export. So for example, if you're going across instances like SBCTC to another college, you definitely have to export and import because you can't copy across instances. And then just advice about like not copying a shell over from quarter to quarter, but to copy just from your development shell so the copy doesn't degrade over time. So I don't know. I think this is my first class going through it. I haven't heard any like feedback back on it or not, but I fine-tuned the page. I rearranged some things. It helped me with making sure the page titles made sense for the content. So yeah, it really speeds me up.
So that was in Claude or in Notebook LM?
That was in Claude.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just asked Claude to generate HTML that would work in Canvas.
Yeah.
And occasionally it gives me code that doesn't work. And
tries to sneak in some JavaScript.
well, yeah, I have to sometimes I usually tell it that at the beginning, don't use this, and this. But you know, the Canvas editor strips so much stuff out, so it's kind of hit and miss sometimes. But Claude actually did a pretty good job identifying what would and wouldn't work in Canvas. It must have gone out and found some like style guide or something for Canvas for what it does and doesn't accept. But yeah, it was really made me go faster on my development. And I think it's a better module now because I refined it.
Sure. Yeah.
With
The
my
Claude
assistant.
code is like really, really phenomenal. Like I've been reading a lot of articles about people who are coding entire websites using Claude code. And
Yeah.
and it's fast and it's usually pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's way better and way faster than ChatGPT. I found, which is one of the reasons I actually saw you use it. And I was like, oh, I need to try that. So I went and tried Claude and I was like, oh yeah, this actually seems to be working a little better. So yeah, I'm using it for a lot of stuff for coding right now.
Cool.
And sorry, the dog's barking. If Major says hi, if you can hear him in the background.
No worries. What's up, Major? Yeah, so okay, so Claude is great. I definitely think especially if you're doing code stuff, if you're doing like you need somebody to kind of give you a second eyes on your writing, I feel like it's a little bit better than ChatGPT. But for Notebook LM, we're gonna move into Notebook LM now, and I want to show you all kind of my workflow. I'm helping an instructor right now who's teaching a public speaking course, and we're taking this instructor got feedback from their students say, you know, there's too much stuff to read in this course. She gives chapters, 2 or 3 chapters a week for her students to read. The chapters that she gives are from this LibreText OER called Public Speaking, and it's created by the Public Speaking Project. So I'll just go ahead and drop this into the chat just to kind of show you, you know, some of the stuff that you can do with OER if you haven't been to LibreText before. If you go to the bookshelves, there's a bunch of different subjects on, you know, like pretty common stuff. But she's using this book, and so what I did was I went through and luckily, you know, this OER is built very nicely where if you go into any chapter, you can click on this little PDF or like if you hover over this PDF icon and come down to chapter, it's going to download the chapter the chapter to a PDF. And then also you saw you can download the full book there as well. And then what I did was I went through and I downloaded every chapter from this textbook, and then I also downloaded the full book just so that I have everything. And so download there, I renamed all the files, and then I tossed them into a new notebook. And so I think I showed this last time, but to make a new notebook in Notebook LM, you have to go to notebooklm.com or .google.com. That link in the chat as well. Don't worry about the last part. That's just because I have multiple Google accounts logged in here. And so this is the course, and then these weren't in here. I went to add sources, and then I uploaded all of the chapters in there. So now this notebook will have access to all of these and be able to reference anyone that you choose, anyone that you check. And so that's the upload files there. I think I talked about this last time, but in Notebook LM, you can also upload links. Like if you have an article, you can upload the link to that article. You can upload videos. So if you have a YouTube video that you have your students watch, you can upload the link to that YouTube. Things from your drive, or if you just have stuff copy and pasted, maybe you made something in ChatGPT and you want to make some materials just very quickly based on that text that was created, you can copy that text in. It all comes in over here on the left side where you have all your sources, and you can pick and choose. So right now everything is checked. So anything I create is going to be uh, like that. But I just want to focus on chapter 11 and chapter 12. And so what I would do here is I'll click on chapter 11. So that's the only, it's only going to get information from that when I go over here to create. And then when I come over here to the studio, you can kind of see, I'll zoom in here. Ooh, I don't know if this is working. Okay. Can y'all see that? I'm trying to zoom in over here, but it's really tricky because it's following my mouse. There's an audio overview. I'm going to stop this because I think it's going to give people a headache. Maybe I can zoom the page. Nope, that didn't work either. Sorry. You've got the audio overview. You've got the video overview. So audio overview is the podcast. The video overview is the video, like the ones we saw on the last page. You can click it. You can turn on a mind map. You can do some reports. I'll click on those in a second. Flashcards, quiz, the infographic, the slide deck, and then the data table. And very, very easily, I'm just going to click these, the things that I want. So I like the podcasts for the people out there that like to listen while they're driving or doing chores. I like the video overview. It sounded like that was the best choice for you all as you were going through. Let's go check and see what the mind map is. And so you'll notice as I'm clicking on these, I'll save reports for a minute. It will start to put it together down here. So you've got the quiz, infographic, and slide deck. There's also these little pencil icons where you can come in and you can customize it. So I think I was talking about this with you yesterday, Jeremy, where um, if you want to edit it a little bit more specifically. So I think I was talking about the slide deck. So you can click it, you can change it from a detailed deck to a presenter slides. So I'll go ahead and try that just to see what it is. And then if there's any sort of like here it says to describe the slide deck you want to create, add a high level outline or a guide, the audience, style, and focus, create a deck for beginners. Okay, so you can click generate. So we'll compare the outputs on that. And then here, this one's pretty cool, reports. So if you click on reports, you can have it create a briefing doc, a study guide, or a blog post. So maybe you can create a study guide for your students that you can post on, copy and add it to your Canvas course. Strategic implementation plan, best practices. What is this? Chapter 11. Speaking with confidence. So maybe a best practices manual. Let's try it right now. So here's the flashcards. What percentage of the US population is estimated to have a high degree of communication apprehension? 87%. 20% or more. Communication apprehension is a well-documented obstacle to success in which two primary areas, academic and professional. it comes out with 65 cards. Seems like a lot. And then what happens when I download it? Oh, it saves it as a CSV file. Well, I wonder. Oh. And then all the answers are over here. That's kind of cool. I don't know if these would be helpful. I feel like flashcards are more like, what is the what is this? Like definition and vocabulary word. Um, those vocabulary words or those flashcards are pretty intense. All right, let's see. As these things are coming in, I'll go ahead and click on them, and then we can kind of judge and see how they look. Here's the infographic to conquer public speaking anxiety. Speaking, communication, apprehension. It talks about the different kinds of anxiety. And then it's got the solution over here on the right. Cognitive restructuring. So this is before you're worried about being under intense scrutiny. After CR, recognize audience, look at the speaker to be polite and listen. Oh, and then look at this little graphic here. Imagine nervousness inside of you. Draw it up with a deep breath. Relax your entire upper body to exhale. It's nice. Okay, so for putting this one in, are you talking about the flashcards or the infographic? Maybe the infographic is. We know how to do that. That one would be, oh, well, I'm just going to say it. So you're going to go to download, and then it's just going to save it as an image. I think everybody knows how to put an image into Canvas. Don't do what I do. I tried to get fancy on this page. And the reason that this didn't work originally, where I said, click on the infographic to enlarge it, is because when you click on it, it takes you to the files page. So I forgot how to make it so you can click and enlarge an image inside of Canvas. So I'll just put it down here. But if you're talking about the flashcards, I'm not sure how to embed that, but I'm wondering if like it can be connected to H5P somehow, because I know H5P has flashcards that you can integrate into. Okay, and then let's see, we've got some other stuff in here. So have you all saw this one? This is the mind map. So it's breaking down the different topics in the article. So, or this chapter of the book. So communication, apprehension, that's something that we were talking about. Make that bigger here. So the definition, fear of public speaking, impact, vicious cycle. Let's see what else we can do here. Cognitive restructuring. And give you some steps, some techniques. Here's the breathe and release. Imagine the energy, deep cleansing breath, deliberate. So a couple things here. So we can use this as a way to create these ancillary materials that can go along with the OER. And as you can see, it's really just click and it creates it. And for the most part, it's pretty good. Oh, I wanted to see this report. So a manual for high stakes delivery. Another thing you can do, like if let's say you created this report that you wanted to be like a study guide, you can also copy that and then add that. That's where you got the copy text. So I can add this as another way to explain the topic. So I can turn on that one. I can turn on the one that I just did, and then I can go through again and create those ones. If it's not, if the output isn't something that you think would be very helpful or useful for your students. But that was the best practice, isn't it? Okay, so here are the two slide decks that it came up with. Let's see which one. The one thing that I think is lacking in this notebook LM is there's a couple of usability issues here when you're add a new um, source, then it renames it and it's kind of hard to find later on. And then over here, it also renames it and doesn't really, it's not very clear on which one is which. So I did the slide deck with a lot of information. This must be the one with a lot of information. And this one does not look that nice to me. But if I click on this one, like this one has much better, like it looks a lot better. And another thing that's pretty limiting, we're talking about accessibility. While these slides look pretty nice, you'll notice this is a PDF, and this is not an editable PDF. This is not text. These are all just images. And so if you were to use this in your class, then maybe taking this as a base and then tossing it into Canva or PowerPoint, and then just making sure you add the text like kind of over the text that's there as the background. You can think of this as the background, and then anything that students are going to need to be able to see or interact with, um, you would need to add that in. And so, I mean, I don't know. I think that might be more work than it would be to create it initially. I like this as kind of a prototype, give me the idea of what I want, and maybe I'll take away some of these things, and then add in what I want to add in myself. And I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about in the listen section, is that we don't want to just take it directly as it is, because there's obviously going to be some errors or in this case some accessibility problems. But if you take it and then kind of mold it and change it in a way that will work and that's in your style, that you feel like you've been the human in the loop in the process, then I think it can be helpful. I think it can save some time. Um, because I don't know, for me, I like if I have something to work with, I already feel like I'm, like towards the end of having it ready, I'm like already started down the road. Okay. So that is that, and that is how you do that. That's in Notebook LM. If anybody wants to, if anybody has any questions about that, if you want to experiment with Notebook LM and you run into some problems, maybe come next week and then we could talk about it at the beginning. But if you do try it and you have some successes, we would also like to hear that too next week. So try that out, Notebook LM, if you're trying to create some alternative formats, engaging learning materials. That's a good way. There's also some, ChatGPT stuff if you want to go that route and kind of follow up with what we've been working on. You can see the prompts in the Explore and the Apply page. So thank you all for coming. It's 4 o'clock. We're right on time. Have a great 3-day weekend, and we'll see you all next week, hopefully.
Thank you, Ronald.
Thanks, Ronald.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Ronald. There's so many tools out there now. I'm like getting lost in all of them.
I know. It is a lot, but I'm the three that I use right now: ChatGPT, the classic, Claude, if I want to do like writing or anything writing related. Like
Yeah.
I'll often take stuff from ChatGPT and then pop it over to Claude, and then that Notebook LM is really nice for the material.
Yeah, that one's definitely interesting. Even if so, I know that you can download PDFs, but like for the flashcards, how do you share that out with students?
Yeah. So what you can do, I forgot to mention this. So if anybody's watching this in the the after hours, the after dark, what you can do is, and I'll go ahead and share my screen because I think this is for anybody who's watching, um, important. So where is it? Okay. I've set up this notebook to have all of the chapters in there, but if I were to do it again, I would just set up the notebook for whatever content I want my students to interact with, learn that week. And so, I'll have like a week one notebook. You can share the notebook with other people. If you
Okay.
go to share, you can put in, I'm not going to do it right now because there's some names in there, but you can go in and you can send the link and they can come in and they can create the mind map and they can interact with the flashcards and the quiz inside of Notebook LM.
Okay.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
definitely cool. I was
Yeah.
wondering how you do that.
And I
Yeah.
bet you could probably upload for the flashcards that downloaded them as a CSV. I bet you could even
Mhm.
upload those to something else and ask it to create like actual flashcards or something like that. I don't know. That could be printed or whatever.
Hold on. You've got me interested here, and this is just going to be a quick idea because some people gotta go. But if I were to take that CSV, where'd that CSV go? Okay. Um, we were talking about Claude earlier. I'll say, can you make a flashcard? What would I call it? It's not an app. Um, embed to use in Canvas elements. I'm just curious what this would come up with because it's pretty good at code. I'm wondering if I could have it so, okay, let's see. I'll create an interactive flashcard application for you that can be embedded into Canvas. This will be a self-contained HTML file with all the flashcards about communication apprehension. We're testing this live. This may or may not work.
No, I mean, yeah, it's this is where like I think it can be really powerful, right? Like, I don't know. Well, I mean, there's many ways, but
Let me see if I can. I got too many tabs open. Okay. It's going to create an HTML. Do you think this is going to work? Let's look at the code. It's got HTML. Okay. It's not adding any. Normally what happens is, yeah, see, I don't know if it's going to be able to.
Yeah, I don't think that. Well,
I don't
It's
know
not going to
that
know these
Canvas
dots.
will like the flash like yeah,
the code, it's the code. It's how it interprets that code right there.
right.
And it may not like it.
So it may not be able to
Gosh,
put
it's
it
still
in
going.
there, but um, but if I saved it as an HTML file, then I will be able to open it. Then it would just be how do I get that into Canvas? Maybe like through an iframe or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll finish this off and then I'll let you know what I come up with and we can talk about it next time.
Cool.
All
Yeah.
right. See
Well,
you.
thanks.
Yep.
Have a
Have a
good
good
weekend,
one.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.